Well, happy Easter, everyone, and welcome to ABC24 This Week. I'm Richard Ransom, along with ABC24 political analyst Otis Sanford. And today we're mixing things up a bit, giving you at home the best election coverage possible by getting to know the candidates in the most high-profile races in the upcoming Shelby County general election. Today, we're featuring the Democratic primary for district attorney, 3 candidates hoping to be their party's nominee and take on Republican incumbent Amy Wyrick in the August general election. Those candidates are the ones you see on your screen right now. Linda Harris, Steve Mulroy, and Janika White. Let's start with you first, Otis, before we get to Linda, who's our first candidate today. I would argue, and tell me if you disagree, that this race is perhaps the most important of all the ones in the county general election in August, because this is an 8-year term.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, it's the most important. It tops the mayor, in my view, and generally the mayor is at the top of the ticket or at the top of the ballot. But absolutely, this is important. You have all the issues around policing and prosecutions. You have the issues of rising crime. You have the issues of truth in sentencings, and all of those things are being discussed. Juvenile crime. All of that is being discussed here, Richard, in this campaign, as it should be. That's what makes it the #1 campaign on the ballot.
And those are big issues nationally, but especially in Shelby County,
absolutely,
too, which we know all too well. Let's bring in Linda Harris now. She's our first candidate that we want to introduce you to, who is running for this very important position. Linda, you have a long background in criminal law enforcement. Thank you so much for being with us. You were a cop once. I know you got your degree in criminal justice before you became a lawyer. Tell us why you're so passionate about this position and why you're running for the office.
Well, so we have a lot of issues in Memphis, but I've been out talking to the community, and what I find is that we all want the same things. We all want to feel safe. We all want to know that our criminal justice system is working for us. And we all want to know that our family and friends and loved ones will be treated fairly by the criminal justice system. And that's not what we have now. We have, not according to Linda Harris, but what we have is we have a district attorney general who has been cited for withholding evidence and unethical conduct during trials. And there have been other problems. For example, in 2012, the Department of Justice found that there was a racial disparity as it relates to the youth who were transferred from juvenile court to adult court. And I can go on, but I actually had an opportunity to work behind the scenes on the issue of the Purvis Payne case, just assisting the BNF Jones chapter got involved. And I was really concerned that our district attorney did not want to use DNA evidence, because I believe that if the district attorney is correct, then the DNA evidence will confirm that this is the correct person.
You've also talked a lot about juvenile justice, which I brought up at the beginning. What is it that you would do differently when it comes to prosecuting juveniles, maybe moving some juveniles to adult prosecution? What would you do differently from what Attorney General Wyrick is doing right now?
So in the juvenile justice system, what we find is, I have noted, is that we have a system where there's a schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline. And when I say that, I mean that there's a lot of over-disciplinary actions taken on some of the kids in schools. Now, I know that they have a lot of different issues, but when a child is in the 3rd grade, they may be labeled, and it is a progressive process from the school to alternative schools and then on into the system, because I am convinced that when you tell a child long enough that they're bad, they will live out your expectations, versus other children being treated as troubled. And we do have troubled children. So there's statutory factors that one must consider when deciding whether or not to transfer a child to adult court. And you look at the criminal history, you look at the crime, you look at the background of the child, including education, you look at the family structure, and a lot of other factors, but they're all statutory. But the main one is whether or not a child can be rehabilitated. And I am personally aware of cases where children were in the past transferred, and there was no doubt that they could have been rehabilitated. They didn't have prior records. They were honor students, mother, father intact. Those are the requirements that you consider. And so I'm very concerned about that. What I would do differently, though, is to implement restorative practices. There are 45 cities where restorative practices, restorative justice, as most people know it, is implemented. And what the statistical data shows is that when they implement the restorative practices initiatives, overall in those 45 cities, recidivism has gone down from 27% to 18%.
Okay, I got to cut you off there, Linda, if it's okay. We got only a couple minutes left for you.
Sure.
To face Amy Wyrick, you got to beat the other two that we're going to have on this program today. And I know you all three had your kumbaya moment where you said you're not going to talk badly about each other. But if I'm a Democrat and I'm deciding, well, who am I going to support? Who's going to get my vote? Why you over the other two? Let's get specific if we can.
Well, I am the only candidate that has a criminal justice degree. I understand the theory. I am the only candidate who understands the criminal justice system from the street as a police officer all the way to the courthouse. I have 15 years experience as a federal prosecutor. I clerked for a federal district court judge. I worked in the civil trial division for the department, all for the Department of Justice. But when I left the federal building in 2011, I said I was going to do justice in the community, and I've been doing that. I've represented people in civil rights cases. I've represented people in the criminal justice system. And
so
then
based on your career experience, I get your point. I got to ask you one other quick question.
Sure.
And this has to do with something made by a frequent guest on this program, Reverend Ken Whalum, who I know is supporting one of your opponents, Janika White, but his basic contention, I think, is worth asking you about. He says Steve Mulroy needs to get out of the race, that a white guy has no business representing the DA's office because of all the tensions that we're experiencing right now, and he speaks well of Steve Mulroy and his career dedication to civil rights and the black community as a whole. But in this particular instance, he says it really needs a black woman is better entitled to this job. What is your quick response to that?
A quick response to that is that I believe you need a qualified individual, and I'm that individual. Steve does have civil rights experience. I don't know that he has a lot of experience in the criminal justice system, and that does make a difference. Civil rights is civil, criminal justice system is different, and he does not have a lot of experience there. I do. I have more experience than any other candidate in this race. And I've worked with strategies, crime prevention strategies. I've worked with conflict resolution strategies and other strategies that I think that we will need to turn things around. We have a lot of mental health.
Linda, thank you so much. I appreciate you being with us. You could make the argument that you're born to be DA, looking at the name plaque behind you there, Linda DA. I like that. Thank you, and good luck in the campaign here in the last couple of days, all right?
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, and we'll be right back with Steve Mulroy in just a moment.